After last week's fantastic premiere of Talentless Nana Episode 1 for Fall of Anime 2020, many could probably agree that we wondered if this series would be able to keep the ball going, if this series would be able to keep amazing quality and not just slowly spiral down into absolute trash, because normally when it comes to series that rely on a twist like Talentless Nana for its, first episode last week with that final part of the episode, usually that is one thing said and done and the series slowly degrades because it's like you're interested because of the twist and then that's about it. And so the series is not necessarily going to get you in the same way again because now that the twist has been said and done, you have the surprise death of like the Mel character from the first episode and you find out that Nana is actually the main character of the story and she's kind of been put there on that island to assassinate everybody. That twist can't be used anymore, so you won't be able to have that like whoa or hype moment anymore going forward. So episode 2 was the first time this series had to really show what it can actually do. If it does have potential for a good story and something to really allow viewers to sink their teeth in and continue watching on a weekly basis. And after watching episode 2, I could definitely say that I'm going to continue watching. This is definitely a good way to showcase what this series is going to be about going forward, probably for the remainder of Talentless Nana's, season. Unless eventually we get a season 2. But to get right into it, it seems like this series is kind of slowly settling itself into a weekly death of the week, or a weekly assassination for each episode. That's kind of what it looks like to me, because we have the first episode obviously built up with a twist, and then we had Nana, he died, and then it revealed that Nana was actually, the main female character. She was talentless, and she was an assassin. This episode introduces another character that has the ability for time stopping. I'll talk more about it in a moment, but basically, he ends up dead at the end of the episode. And so it seems like the formula of this series is kind of gearing towards that, where you have the main plot of each individual episode is going to be mainly focusing on introducing new characters that we have a part of this classroom, and then Nana trying to figure out how to overcome them, get rid of them, etc., completely get them out of the picture. And then you're going to have the guy that I think his name is Onodera that is going to be slowly investigating and building up his overall opinion on Nana until we get to the end of this anime season, and then he's probably going to finally, pit it against her and it's like, hey, you're the imposter, you're a killer, you're someone that is causing all these disappearances and people to die, etc. You're the obvious culprit here. It seems like that's kind of what the series is setting itself up for, which is not a bad thing by any means. I think it's really good depending on how it's done. It comes down to execution, and if they can make these episodes really unique and really make it to where you're like, whoa, that's kind of smart, handling someone like this and all that, and how Nana struggles to overcome certain situations going forward throughout this series. So let's dive into, episode 2 of Talentless Nana. Gotta hand it to her. She handled the ability of time stopping, or at least traveling back in time, in a way that I didn't really think about, and it was such an intelligent method that I am honestly, all I can do is just say, I'm impressed. Like, I'm seriously impressed. It was really, really good. Like, the way to handle him and how he got stuck under the ice and then, how he drowned in the water. I was just like, that's incredibly intelligent. It was multi-layered. It actually makes a lot of sense why he wasn't able to come back and why he was just straight up dead. As soon as he decided to go back in time in that moment above the ice, it was over. And to kind of explain the reason why that is the case is because, as Nana explained, he was standing on the ice, and as soon as he teleports back in the past, he is in that same spot. So example, if I went back in the past right now, like if I had that power, and I can go back 24 hours, I wouldn't be suddenly behind my chair. I would be right here, sitting in my chair. Now, if my chair was not here, but I teleported, I'd fall down. I would literally just fall down and probably hurt myself, basically. That's kind of what would potentially happen. And so what happened with him is when he teleported back into the past, he fell through the ice because the ice wasn't there. So it was technically water. He fell down into the water, and it was stated early on in the episode, with subtle buildup, by the way, that he couldn't really swim. So he was, disorientated probably. He's like, what's going on? Where am I? Trying to swim and all that. And so if he tried to go back to the future again, like to go back if he somehow could, he would be completely solid in a block of ice. That's what was basically stated, was that even if somehow he managed to get to the surface and he somehow got noticed or whatever, because of that, he would be into a situation where ice would be there. Ice would be formed and, he would be solid. And so that was also a subtle build-up by the, what happened early on in the episode with how Nana was like, can you freeze people? I like these little nods, the intelligence of how as soon as he decided that method of going back right then and there, it was over. But also, the reason why he didn't notice he was on ice was because Nana disguised it by hiding dirt over the ice. That was the whole point of the shovel. She was literally disguising it so when he walked there, he wouldn't realize he's over ice. He wouldn't have that slippery effect or anything. So I just think it was really smart. It was really good writing. I'm very impressed by the writer that they did it in such a way, and it didn't rely on, like, a twist like the first episode. This was just showing the level of writing and just how Nana is as a character to overcome her opponents, and it didn't feel like forced to really force him in that situation. It made, a lot of sense, looking at the characters and how they were introduced and all that. Everything kind of made sense with just how everything went down. I think that it made a lot of sense in terms of everything else, and I'm impressed. I can't wait to see how Nana overcomes her next opponents, which, by the way, let's get into that. So, she has now managed to get rid of two people. She has gotten rid of Nanao and now this, time stop / go back in time individual, and this is gonna make her look like a really sus person. Like, she's looking sus right now from Among Us. Like, she has been around two individuals that has mysteriously decided to just disappear. Like, they don't know where Nanao is, and obviously the dude is frozen under a lake, and he's not gonna appear for a few days, but that's a whole other can of worms to talk about, because looking at everything that was stated, it doesn't look like history is fully changed. Like, you have it to where multiple times Nana was able to remember when he went back in the past and all that, and he changed things. She was able to remember past in the current new future / past. So, it doesn't seem like all of the memories get completely rewritten. She was very aware of certain things, especially with the spilling of the water. So, because of that, she's not really going to get off scot-free from getting rid of this guy, because you have it to where people actively saw her around the man, asking things, etc., Onodera especially, and he's gonna key in on that. Like, she straight up was around this guy, and then he disappears. After what happened in the first episode, it's gonna make her look very, very suspicious. So, I'm just like, she's looking more and more really bad right now. Like, people are going to start noticing that something's going to happen. As more and more people continue to disappear, you're going to have to where people are going to start questioning, like, what's going on here? People are obviously getting killed, and especially when that body pops up for the time traveler, that's going to cause even more problems. And they know that there potentially could be enemies among them. That's something that's been stated for a long time now, is that these individual talented people know that there could be monsters that look like humans right there. And because of that whole ordeal, they're going to start suspecting people. There's going to be trust issues amongst the group. And I feel like eventually they're going to start, pointing their, fingers maybe at Onodera or Nana. I definitely see them start pointing it at Onodera because of just how shifty he is. He's the new kid, and, actually the two new kids, Nana and Onodera. And all of a sudden, soon as they come here, you have these people just randomly disappearing. They're both looking very sus right now. So I'm curious to see how she's going to handle that, because she can't really get through this situation by her normal means. Eventually they're going to start figuring out that her mind reading isn't actually a thing, and she's been lying for a very long time. It's just only a matter of time. Which, by the way, let's actually talk about Nana for a second and her past and also the world's past. So we come to find out a little bit about the world, lore of this series, and how in the past people miraculously started having powers pop up. It's very reminiscent, honestly, of X-Men and My Hero Academia. It reminds me a lot of both of those series. Just powers randomly started to pop up. And obviously because of this, the arrogant individuals, people that love power, get consumed by power. They decided they wanted to rule or do whatever they wanted. And obviously there was just total anarchy. It makes perfect sense. If something like that was to actually happen in today, real life, like people miraculously started getting psychic powers and all that, things like that probably would happen. It would not be peaceful by any means. So you have anarchy, and the government tried to do anything they could to stop it. They tried to get people back in line. Eventually they resorted to having other talented people help them out to bring down the talented that was, causing, revolution and anarchy, etc. And it led one thing to another, to where the people that were also working for the government turned around and went against the government because they finally had some positions of power. So they were like, we can finally get back at what they did to us, keeping us as lab rats. So it just made the whole situation between the talented and the talentless very, very, like, why, the big gap between them, and it made the anger a rift. And after many, many decades, apparently the talented were no longer looked as bad. They were, sent to an island to be able to train to fight invisible threats. It seems like the governments from each individual country is brainwashing the kids to be able to think that if you're talented, you're actually positioned to take down these creatures, these aliens, whatever, these monsters, these enemies of humanity. And this has been happening for a very, very long time. They're handling it in a different way. They're not just actively being straight up front about it. They're just trying to get rid of them secretly, for there isn't a talented that gets aware of this and starts initiating what happened in the past. So everything makes a lot of sense, honestly, but at the same time, I'm just like, okay, so now that we know this, it makes me wonder a little bit about these people in the head honchos, these, a part of this organization, the governments, etc. I wonder if any of them do have talents. There's bound to be someone amongst there that also has talent as well, and this series is positioning us in a way to where it's like, the talented are being, prosecuted for reasons that really doesn't make sense. Like, some of them, yes, they're power hungry and they're very dangerous, 100%, but they also have things that they care about. They love people, they care about humanity and all that, so they're not all fundamentally evil. And I feel like looking at everything that's going on here, especially with what the government's doing with Nana and how she's, getting these messages of each individual has a certain amount of kill count. For instance, how the guy from the first episode, he had like a kill count of over 2 million, but when we look at his power was only the ability of, stopping other people with talent. So I'm like, how is a guy that only has an ability to stop people with only talents, how can he cost 200 million deaths? I'm just like, that doesn't make sense. Yes, he would be a leader, but it doesn't make sense to me how they would know these arbitrary numbers when obviously his power wasn't really known about at all. He kept it very hidden and, close to him. So I just do wonder about that. How do these head honchos know this unless they have someone that's maybe a part of their organization that is somehow able to see the future of these individual people that are able to kill individuals or cause certain deaths and harm? That's the only thing I could assume. But I think this episode's really good. It does get down to the fundamentals of what the series is about. It allows us to see that the series is able to stand on its own 2 feet and not ride upon its twist from the first episode. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where the series goes. Can't wait for episode 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.